of cataract. We're going to start this amazing activity when I'm going to present the panel, because I don't have even the image about them. We have Jeff McMahon from Cornell in the US. Thank you, Jeff, for being here with us. It's an honor to have you. Rong Yeo, it's from Singapore. He's a friend of the house. We love to have him. I think it's the 4th time we have him, and we will love to have him every week. Takashi, another amazing colleague from Brazil. Thank you, Takashi, for being here with us, part of the family. Luz Marina, she's an amazing surgeon, and she has been, so helpful with us translating. And today was it. It was like, okay, enough of translation. We want Luz Marina to show us. She's so skillful, for hard cataracts, so many different techniques. So we have an amazing panel. Jorge is translating. Cesar is also giving us a help to translate to Portuguese. So welcome everybody. And we're gonna start with Jeff. We're gonna start from soft. We're gonna go to the medium cataracts, and then we're gonna go to the hard ones. So Jeff, thank you for being here with us. You can show your screen.
Great, thanks so much, Ivo. I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for being here. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to Ron. We'll go ahead and pull up our video here. You have to forgive me. I'm new to the webinar, so I don't have any fancy graphics to display, but I thought I could really quickly, 10 seconds, tell you about the case. Younger patient, obviously posterior polar cataract, expecting to have a soft lens. So I thought this video, can highlight a few principles for both posterior polar cataracts as well as for soft lenses. So patient counseling, I think right off the bat, is something that's going to be critical. Talking with your patients, letting them know, hey, there's always a chance we may have to do things a little bit differently if there's posterior capsular involvement and the integrity is not what we expect. So letting them know ahead of time, a little bit of counseling ahead goes a long way. In this video, I think what you will see here is hydrodissection first. And I will tell you, most of the time, that's not my preferred approach. I'm normally going to be a big advocate of hydrodelineation, followed by a gentle anterior cleavage with hydrodissection, separating out or bowling out the nucleus. Okay, and so I'll go ahead and play the video here. So we hold our breath a little bit with a wave that wraps around, and I know that can be a little bit scary, followed by really a golden ring that we get a good, nice delineation. So in my hands, I really prefer to remove the endonucleus with simple aspiration. I think that this can be done with the lens in the bag. Certainly, prolapsing into the AC, other techniques are possible, but with just a soft lens, again, just aspiration. So gentle fluidics, again, keeping the patient safe. I want to keep the phaco tip in the right place and aspirating. The epinuclear shell can be approached in many different ways. And when I have residents with me in the operating room, I would not encourage what you're seeing here, which is gentle aspiration. Again, the cumulative dissipated energy in these cases is 0. There's no need for ultrasound energy. Gently stripping away the epinucleus with the phacoemulsification tip. With residents and trainees, this would be done with the coaxial IA. I would not advocate for a sharp metal instrument in the eye at this stage. Again, in my hands, I feel comfortable at this stage proceeding. You can see that the sub-incisional epinucleus is a little bit stuck in, and so that's where viscodissection can be your friend, both with posterior polar cataracts, which is what I would typically do if I was concerned about capsular integrity to begin with, as well as with soft lenses. Another option, of course, would be to switch to coaxial IA at this point as well. So this brings up some epinucleus into a more easily accessible position, gentle aspiration. And finally, I get to the point where I say, hey, this isn't coming out. We're going to switch and go to the irrigation aspiration coaxial piece. And you'll see as the remnants are coming up, again, that will prove that the posterior capsule is in fact intact. This patient, again, being younger, did elect, in this case, for a extended depth of focus lens, did very nicely, and was very happy by the conclusion of the case. Again, as Ivo mentioned, though, safety being first. It doesn't matter how quickly we do things. So that's my case, short, quick video. Would certainly encourage any questions, comments, and I will kick it over to Luz Marina. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much, Ivo, for the invitation and to Oftalmo University. I'm going to show you also another approach to soft cataracts right now. it's time to learn to smile with our eyes. So it's very important to keep on with the safety issues. I have this also soft cataract and polar cataract as well, adding some difficulty to the case. So we do a capsulorhexis that we like to do it around 5.5, if it's not going to be a multifocal lens. You have to remember that posterior capsular, polar capsular is very high risk of RCPs. So Dr. Scaff proposed this technique that's to make split the nucleus into 2 halves before hydrodissection in order that the fluid afterwards is injected and it can leave the eye more properly and without having intraocular pressure rises in the intraocular pressure. So in this way, with the Scaff Prechop in this case, we first, before doing any hydrodelamination or any hydrodissection, we split into 2 halves. But notice something. Here, the posterior plaque is conserved. If it was not a posterior polar cataract, I would do and split definitely into completely 2 halves. But since it's a posterior polar, you have to leave this little shell inside the posterior plaque to protect, because it has been demonstrated, it has been shown that in the hydrodissection, it's the time when the intraocular pressure of the eye rises the most. So in this case, I'm going to have this space. So when the fluid is injected with a very kind hydrodissection, it will leave through this groove instead of rising the intraocular pressure. So
can I ask you something at this stage? Are you not concerned about downward pressure of your pre-chopper on a posterior polar cataract that you might actually rupture the posterior polar?
Well, no, because it's very gentle. It's very, very, very gentle. And we did a study regarding all the posterior, and using this technique, we did not have considering it's a soft polar cataract, because if it's a hard posterior cataract, the approach is completely different. It's completely different. This is just for the soft posterior polar cataracts. And if it was not posterior polar, I would split into the 2 halves. But since it's polar, you should leave the posterior plaque complete at that moment, so that the fluid goes by through the spaces, decreasing the intraocular pressure and protecting the posterior capsule.
Got it.
So then I make a rotation, some more OVD, and then afterwards, introducing the OVD, we make the division into other 2 halves. So right now I have 4 parts of the nucleus. So I notice it's completely very well fractured. And now I introduce the tip, the Phaco tip, using those seal with 20 to 40. A little bit lower than when I use for hard cataracts, and increasing a little bit the vacuum to help us grab the piece. And so in that moment, we completely go with the focal emulsification. See the plaque over there, and then afterwards we release all the remains, and then we introduce the intraocular lens. We put it into the sac, into the bag, and very important, take away the viscoelastic, the OVD that's behind the intraocular lens. We always place a suture because that's our protocol. This is a picture of Phaco mentors in Phaco Caribe. Thank you very much. And let's go on. I'll stop sharing. Okay.
So now it's Takashi, right? So I will tell a little bit of my pre-chop technique. So I am a Kahoshi believer, right? I believe that paper says that you have techniques that reduce 10 to 50% of the ultrasound, and I think the hint is the tips here is while pushing downwards, open the pre-chop blade slowly. So if you apply a proper force, the nucleus will crack completely by a single action. So this allows to use much greater forces, disassemble the nucleus, and usually I split in sections. And I think the key point here is a good separation and transmit the precise strength, like Ron was telling, for a vertical movement. So the other technique is described by Kahoshi as well. I'm telling you, most of the techniques are the pre-fracture techniques. And I think good instruments always do a very good job. In this case, I'm doing the pre-slice. It's when you're unable to achieve bisection, I replace two sustainers, and at the equatorial area and deepest portion of nuclear crack, I reopen a precise movement to sustainer shoppers. So this is my tricks for soft nucleus.
Is it my turn to go, Ivo?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Guys, I'm back. I think with all the power now, I'm just fighting with my computer. And I think I can, let's see if I can share my screen finally, because there's many insights, tips, and things we're learning from those amazing cases. Let's see if you guys can see my screen now.
Yep.
Yes.
Thanks God. Okay, so welcome guys, and we're building this Phaco Mentors community. We ask you to follow us through social media to make this community bigger and bigger. And today is a very important day, because every time you face a cataract or a different type of cataract, you need to understand that you need to be trained to face that. It's not that in that moment you're gonna an angel is going to illuminate you and you're going to solve that problem. No, you're going to raise to the level of your training. And we keep, talking about this concept is very important. What is Phaco Mentors? Is this big community, is an ecosystem that we want to build worldwide so you can become the surgeon you want to be. Tomorrow, we're going to have an amazing activity about communication. It's going to be in Spanish from people in Spain, so we lose the language English, but we're going to talk about how you communicate with your patients by telemedicine. So I think it's going to be very interesting, so everybody who's here can register for tomorrow. The other important thing we're trying to do in Phaco Mentors is talking about immediately sequential bilateral cataract surgery. And please, everybody who can take a picture of that QR code and answer 5 or 6 questions. I would like to ask one question to the panel, like very fast. But if you're open or not to do immediately sequential bilateral cataract surgery, we can discuss it later. But Takashi, would you be open to start doing this in some patients?
Yeah, in Brazil, there is some restrictions for bilateral surgeries, and especially for refractive cataract surgeries. But there are some doctors that does, and I believe I saw the ASCRS talking about the bilateral, especially in COVID pandemic cases, and I saw that in Europe there are places that they do, but there are some differences because, for example, in Europe they have the Apracam, that is a intracameral antibiotics made for that. So in Brazil we don't have this available yet, but I believe that the future is a very secure surgery and possibilities to be bilateral, like refractive surgery, right?
Thank you. Luz Marina?
Also, we have very restrictions also in Colombia as well for bilateral cataract surgery. So nowadays we have to do it one by
You have restrictions.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Ron?
I will do it if a patient is really keen on it. I don't encourage it because I think, for the private patients, they sometimes feel very frightened of 2-eye surgery. But if they want it, I will accommodate them. If not, I will say just do them a couple of days apart. Great.
Remember, guys, who are those are there? Please take a picture. You're gonna have a link. We did an amazing talk with Steve Arshinoff, who is the godfather, and of course Thomas Oeting from the U.S., the godfathers of bilateral cataract surgery. We would love to see your opinion. And Jeff, you live in the U.S., what's your opinion about this?
Yeah, first of all, I would say thank you for facilitating discussion. I have done this in my practice in New York City, not commonly, but like you said, there are considerations, there are sometimes restrictions, so lots of different things to consider. But I think I've actually, listened to your talk with Tom and Steve, and it was fantastic. So great to keep that discussion going.
Yeah, thank you. The idea is, to expand our comfort zone and at least talk about this, but there's so many colleagues that will never ever do this. And, when we ask why, well, there's no evidence. There's sometimes even a bias, but, it's a discussion for another day. I just wanted to let people know also, there's another QR code. Those who their dream is to become a cataract surgeon, now they can. And if they, if they feel this very, very fast link, they can have it like by taking a picture, we can help them to find a mentor wherever they live. So it was an honor, and I wanted to have all these panelists in this amazing, flyer. And the idea is to, to have, and if you see, like Ron from Singapore, Luz Marina from Colombia, Jeff from US, and Takashi from Brazil. I think this is an amazing team with a different perspective of cataracts, but we're gonna learn a lot about them because there's principles of success. And one of the principles I love the most is this one, right? Is to learn by taking the patient outside the equation. Let's learn everything we can without a patient. And today is gonna be an activity like that. And also, I will love you to think, this concept that I love is the iceberg approach. Like, I have so many colleagues that they will say, I do stop and chop. It takes me everywhere. So I'm happy with that. I'm comfortable with that. And I don't want to learn anything else. So I think, we can change that, and we can have, we can expand our comfort zone. As I love this slide, right? Every time you expand your comfort zone, magic happens out there. And there is also the confirmation bias. We are talking about bilateral cataract surgery. We are also talking about techniques. Some people that say, I do this technique because I learned in residency. And that's it. I don't want to learn anything else. We have a couple actually of questions. Lisandro, if you can, we want to ask the audience 3 interesting questions that are going to tell us a lot about what you think. And for example, this one, and we'll love the audience if they have a favorite technique. Let's see which wins. There's some differences. I remember last time we were Takashi and Ron, the quick chop, horizontal chop, and vertical chop. But just, answer what you guys think. And if you can see in the back, that slide, I think, sets another important concept. That this is not that there's only one technique that is the best and the other ones are bad. Everything has pros and cons, and we need as surgeons to balance those steps. Let's see what people are answering, please. Okay, so stop and chop with 42% and divide and conquer with 36%. What do you think, Ron and Takashi? We need to talk about the pre-chop and chopping too, right? We love that. Okay.
That's a very interesting survey, Ivo. I mean, divide and conquer, as we know, many people are doing it because it's reproducible, but uses some energy. Stop and chop is also very popular. But in fact, tonight, if you look on my screen up there, I'm actually giving a talk in Asia on why are you not pre-chopping your cataracts? To echo what Takashi just said, that I think pre-chop is an underutilized technique for really the soft to medium. And now with the newer designs of pre-chopper, you can pre-chop up to 3+. So I think that's worth including in your survey next time.
Yeah, we are in the right panel. Ron, we love the pre-chopper. It's amazing. The second thing, it's about different types of cataracts, because if you tell me, a very hard cataracts with the sonula is not in a very good shape, would I do a divide and conquer? Probably will. It will be relaxed. I will, put a lot of dispersive viscoelastic, and why not to do that? Why chop if the sonula is weak? So what we want actually is for you guys who are there to, to learn principles, to learn about this. I think this is one of my favorite slides, right? This is something that should be in your mind always, no matter what technique you do. The endothelium is going to remember you forever. Whatever you do is going to remember you forever. Okay, and he's right there. right? So you need to understand that whatever you're doing, there is something called the safety zone, that it's a 3D safety zone, right? Endothelium up and the posterior capsule, it's another thing you should always remember, because if you break it, that surgery will change completely. And the third thing is sometimes probably the guys who love to chop, they forget that the sonula has some resistance, and you can, if you're just moving that lens too much, you can hurt it. So finally, I just wanted to show my technique. I love these videos because they show that the surgery not only happens, when you see in the YouTube video, it's happening in the foot, it's happening in your hand position, it's happening when you're floating through the incision. So what I like is I love to do a one port Phaco, because the fluidics, they work for me. Everything comes to me, or there is no paracentesis losing fluid. And as you can see there, I did pre-chop this nucleus as Ron loves, but that pre-chop wasn't enough. So what I did is I roll it up. It was half of the nucleus, and I broke it with ultrasound. All the time, working in the safety zone, and all the time just taking my time and only doing position 3 to, if you have occlusion in the tip. That's very important. I let the fluidics do the work. And as you can see there, practically I didn't move my Phaco tip, not only to just put some of the fragments to come to me in that safety zone. I just wanted to show that video for me, for soft cataracts. And I would like to ask the panel, before we start with Ron, about how important it is for you guys to crack the lens versus to emulsificate the lens and aspirate, right? Because I think you're saying it again and again, Ron, right? Every time you have a nucleus that is fragmented, everything changes. The problem is when you're struggling and you don't have that nucleus fragmented. What do you think about that?
Well, I would say that, for the hard cataract, it's actually easy to crack it into half. There's lots of resistance. The challenges in these medium and softer ones that are difficult to separate. And this is why we're having this seminar. And I agree with you, absolutely. Separation, complete separation is crucial.
Okay, so let's start with your talk then, Ron, and then we keep the discussion going.
All right. Okay, you got my screen up there?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Ivo for having me back again. It's a total delight to join you as always, because I love your philosophy of safety first and lots of discussion really in these sessions. So I'm going to talk a little bit about managing medium cataracts. Now, you all know we have dense cataracts at one end of the spectrum and mushy cataracts at the other end. And the paradox is that soft cataracts can actually be harder than hard cataracts. Now, we're lucky we're eye surgeons because we have variety, and variety is the spice of life. But as you mentioned also, you really don't want to be on autopilot with stop and chop or divide and conquer for every case, because it's just the wrong technique for very soft or very hard cataracts. Now, we've talked a little bit about categorizing nuclear hardness. We're all familiar with the log scale, NS1 to 5 plus, but I like to classify my cataracts as soft, hard, and what I will call here, neither here nor there, or the medium cataracts. And I have seen so many of my residents get into trouble with this group because they kind of just think it's easy when it isn't, and they look very inelegant and clumsy when they're dealing with these cataracts. Now, really soft nuclei under 30 years old are really easy. You just aspirate them. Really dense ones, we have all these techniques that are available to us. And as I've said, with more resistance, they're actually easier to crack. But what are the challenges of doing neither here nor there cataracts? Well, as we all know, there's no resistance, so it's difficult to rotate, it's difficult to crack, they are difficult to grip. Indeed, if you try and grip these softer cataracts, the tendency is to core through and threaten the posterior capsule. So here, let's have a look at one of my residents doing a case trying to crack this stop and chop groove. She's pushing the fragment apart, and you just watch what happens to her chopper here. It goes right through the nuclear fragment there, threatening the posterior capsule. So you can see that this is a potential problem. Now, also, why is managing this neither here nor there nuclei important? Well, because we're doing more and more refractive lens extractions in the 50 to 60-year-old who have these softish cataracts. PSC cataracts are also tend to be soft, especially if steroid induced. Now, here's my take-home message to many of the delegates watching. You need to devise a strategy to free and mobilize the soft nucleus and not just take it to chance and try your stop and chop or try your divide and conquer. And here's the centerpiece of the sort of strategy. Number one, if you do hydrodissection alone, you're going to get a big messy lump of soft cortex nucleus, epinucleus. But if you add in hydrodelineation, you're going to be able to separate that soft nucleus. And as we mentioned just now, Jeff mentioned the hydrodelineation is very important. And I totally agree with him, because this isolates the nucleus, allowing you to remove the nucleus in one piece, what I call the en-bloc removal technique. Here we see the hydrodissection first, push the nucleus back, hydrodelineation, giving you the beautiful golden ring. And once I get that golden ring, I know that my nucleus is free. That's the crucial point. Clear the cortex as I've just done. Go to memory 2, put your phaco tip into the middle of that nucleus, lollipop it out. You could almost hear it pop out then. See, once the nucleus is out, the operation is really over, right? Here, let's look at another case from a different angle. Again, hydrodissection first, and then I'm going to do the hydrodelamination or hydrodelineation with the golden ring, and the nucleus pops out. Now here I'm using the new technology of intraoperative OCT to show you what that golden ring actually means. And if you look at it on the right, you can see the fluid level there underneath that nucleus. And this tells you that that nucleus is free, allowing us to lollipop it out, as I showed you in the previous case, leaving this empty bed of epinucleus behind. So I think that that en-bloc technique is really a wonderful technique for the softer ones. But you know, we're all creatures of habit, and sometimes you've got a long list, you just go on autopilot, you do a stop and chop on a nucleus, and then you find that it's actually a bit soft, and then you can't really use your normal technique. So this is where you need to really modify your stop and chop technique a little bit. Make sure, excuse me, your grooves are deep and narrow so you've got more to push against. Be careful about impaling. Remember, you don't have time to bury the tip, have occlusion and grip, because you might rupture the posterior capsule. And the secret to these is to do a quick vertical chop as soon as your phaco tip begins to impale or engage the heminucleus. Here, you see the heminucleus, I'm just pushing against, and then I'm doing that very quick chop, just as I'm starting a little bit of phaco and ultrasound. Here's the other half. I do the chop almost before I start engaging power and phaco. And that then makes the operation much more easy. What about flax? Is there a role for flax? Well, we've already got a soft nucleus. Why should we use flax? Well, because sometimes you want to have a perfectly round capsulorhexis, but you do need to modify your flax removal technique. As you all know, when you soften the nucleus, whether it's segments or in this grid pattern, you need to somehow complete the separation because the posterior plate of the nucleus is not complete. And here is a paddle pre-chopper, which I designed with the help of Dr. Akahoshi. And this is the paddle pre-chopper I use in all these cases to complete the femtofragmented, partially fragmented nucleus. And you can see that once I put it in, I've cracked it into half, and then I crack it into 4 quadrants. And then it's very easy to put, here's an Akahoshi knuckle tip, in to just aspirate up that femtofragmented nucleus, which has also been pre-chopped by the femtopaddle pre-chopper into 4 quadrants. Then the rest of the operation is literally just like doing IA of the nucleus with really zero energy usage. Now, having revisited pre-chopping in flax, I said, well, why don't we just use pre-chopping as the standard technique for the neither here nor there nucleus using the karate pre-chop technique. And here we saw Takashi showing us very elegantly, and here's a combo 2 pre-chopper going into the heart of a maybe 1.5, 2 plus nucleus, and completely cracking it into 2 halves and then rotating it. This is why hydrodissection is crucial to phaco pre-chop, because you need to be able to rotate the nucleus to really separate the nucleus into 4 quadrants. And you need to do this for the maybe 2+, neither here nor there nucleus, and then the rest is easy. So here's the neither here nor there nucleus strategy that I suggest. You know, if it's on the hard side, you can still do a stop and chop, but be prepared to do a quick stop and chop and not bury the tip. Use the karate pre-chop for the 50 to 60-year-old with 1+ up to 2+ nucleus sclerosis using the combo 2 or 4. And the third technique for the maybe younger ones, say 40 to 50 age group, I would hydrodelaminate and lollipop it out like the on-block technique. But my summary slide, the secret to neither here nor there cataracts is number 1, hydrodelaminate, but number 2, you also have to hydrodissect. Why is this? Well, let's look at this final clip of mine. Again, a 52-year-old, I just did this case yesterday. And I thought, wow, great case to show. Hydrodissected first and hydrodelaminated, as you can see here. And in this case, because it's 52, I decide to do a pre-chop. And here's the combo 4 pre-chopper, chopping it into 2 heminuclei. Now, you don't always have to do 4 quadrants. And for the softer nuclei, I will only do 2 heminucleus, just 1 pre-chop. And you can pull the first heminucleus out pretty easily, as you can see here. And once you've done that, you rotate the other heminucleus into place, and you grab the second heminucleus, which disappears very easily. But then you've got the epinucleus left behind. So if you don't hydrodissect as well, you're going to struggle to remove this epinucleus. But because I've hydrodissected, I can get a handle, get a grip on the epinucleus. And if you watch very closely about now, you'll see that it kind of twists free there. You can see the whole epinucleus just comes free of the capsular bag, and you've removed the epinucleus in one fell swoop, leaving minimal IA at the end. So remember, hydrodissect and hydrodelaminate for these soft guys. But as Ivo mentioned, you really need to match your technique to the nucleus density to really get smooth looking surgery that makes you look like a real professional and not an amateur. Thank you so much for having me, Ivo.
It's an honor, as always, Ron. About what's going to happen with the next APACARs, do you have any news about that?
Oh, our APACRs is postponed to next July, end of next July, but we're just having a webinar tonight and covering several topics with Graham Barrett, Abe Vasavada, and Chi-Sun Pei. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. You said something very interesting, right? About matching the nucleus with a technique. We have in our community, we have Dr. Juan Valenzuela from Argentina. We're going to share his video. It's very interesting, and you can see a very very nice technique about an horizontal chop. Let's see if it runs. You know, sometimes we have some problems with it. It's not running. If it doesn't run, well, then we can put it. You know, let's see if we can see it running. But what I wanted to say with this is that, you know, even in soft cataracts, sometimes you can do a very nice horizontal chop, and then the cracking of the nucleus is going to be interesting. It's not running. We can show it a little bit later, because now we're going to. I don't know, any comments, Takashi, Luz Marina, from Ron's techniques about medium cataracts?
I can say also that I agree with him in many of the aspects he said, but we have to evaluate what type of patients do we have. For instance, in Latin America, more than 70% of our cataracts are very hard cataracts. And our technique, and I'm going to show you in afterwards, it would be the ultrachopper. And we also use the ultrachopper as well, is medium and none here, none there cataracts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so to finish this, we want to finish fast and then do a very interesting discussion. We're going to start with the hard ones. You know, people always wait for the hard cataracts. You know, that's when you see the surgeons doing interesting things. So Takashi, you have very interesting things about hard cataracts. And also, please, Lisandro, we have another question for the audience. We really want to know what the audience thinks about this cataracts. If you can put the second question, and you can start sharing your screen, Takashi.
I can share my screen.
Yes.
Just a minute. Open the
We would like to know what you think about this, Jeff, too, right? Because, you know, what about those guys who always says that in the US, the cataracts are so soft? I disagree. I'm pretty sure you face all this type of cataracts. What are your thoughts?
You know, I would invite them to come to New York City. You have the most diversity potentially of, you know, anywhere in North America. No, I think it depends. So certainly, you know, demographics change, but I agree with you completely. I think having a tool belt at your disposal and knowing how to adapt based on the patient to do what's best for them is really what's most important. So yeah, I think we may prefer one technique, but being adaptable and knowing a few is great depending on the scenario.
Great. So let's see what people are saying. Medium. Ron, this is for you. So people are learning a lot from Ron. Ron, I have to be honest, I saw that talk 2 or 3 times. Every time I see it, I learn something new. Thank you. So people, very importantly, you know, every time you have a medium cataract, you just come back to the webinar. It's going to be in YouTube, and you can, you know, have all this. What will be, since you finished, Ron, what will be the 3 things? 3, only you get only 3 to say to these guys that say they face medium cataracts all the time?
I would say number 1, make a note in your clinic notes on the nucleus density so you don't get a surprise in the OR. How often do I see a resident come in to do a case and I say, how dense is this? And they say, well, we're not quite sure, and But if you know that it's a neither here nor there, you're prepared and plan for it. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would absolutely learn the pre-chop technique because it will get you out of trouble so many times. And I would say number 3, master your hydrodissection and hydrodelamination technique.
Love it. I love it. I love it. The pre-chop is important. So, and also the hydrodelineation, very important in these cases. So Takashi.
Okay. So I would say before I start my video that the best message for residents and fellows are really always do slow to finish fast, because that's the best opportunity for success doing a very secure surgery. And about techniques, I would say learn all the possible phaco techniques and stay with the technique that you most trust and it's most safe. I think that's the recommendation for residents and learning curve. So I'm gonna talk about the counter pre-chop technique. I think it's pre-chop is a challenging dense cataracts counter pre-chop technique should be used with this counter fixation to the impaling pre-chopper is supplied by a second instrument. I'm showing the EYESI harmonics Phaco tip ultrasound tip bevel down toward the nucleus so that you can make a direct and complete contact with the nuclear surface, and showing here in this case on the small pupil. So this is a Dr. Akahoshi's video I use for normal dense cataract cases. And this is the ultrachopper. I think Dr. Scaff, one of the most important ophthalmologists on the history, right? He invented this ultrachopper, and I use the ultrachopper for pre-chop, right? It's an excellent technique for dense cataract, and I use one incision on these cases because it's a sharp phaco tip that you can do a trench with the ultrachopper blade before the pre-chopping. And one advantage is that you can visualize the fracture. And this is the other pre-slice for hard cataract. I have a more learning curve, but this technique was shown by Jack Dojic and Dr. Akahoshi. And I'm showing a little bit of the Wagner Zacharias tips about the ozil. And I think harmonics and these new types of tips are really very good for torsional technology. And I will recommend really the settings for hard nucleus, the pure torsional settings for secure cataract surgery. Nice, thank you.
Very, very interesting. Any comments? Luz Marina, we know you do so many cases with hard cataracts.
Yes, yes, many cases we've had cataracts because we have so many at the clinic. That's our main group of people, group of patients. And now then, after we share also my ultrachopper technique, and maybe we can discuss later on. And I agree also that that's very important that people see, watches many surgeons operating cataracts in order to see what's best for them, what's suitable for each person, what goes better with each person, and do it in a safe way. I'm very compromised and committed with the patient.
Very interesting. Jeffrey, any comments? Because I think we also, when we talk about hard cataracts and we talk about phaco-dynamics and we're talking about techniques, we need to talk about the phaco tip. We need to talk about many other different things, right? We need to, for example, I have seen, and I don't have any commercial issues, that with the balance tip is such an efficient tip for hard cataracts. And also, Takashi, you're using the harmonics. And then we have here Ron as well, that has a lot of experience and very good friends with Akaoshi. We should talk about even the phaco tips when we're facing hard cataracts, right?
Yeah, I agree absolutely, and I agree with you, Ivo. The balance tip and the torsional component is really highly efficient. And in training, I think it's also important as we're getting new trainees involved in cataract surgery to really understand the phaco-dynamics. I mean, we joke here sometimes when the first machine you use is a Centurion. It's a little bit like learning to drive on a Porsche, right? So we may not understand what surge is, what some of the fluidic issues that we'll run into. Potentially more with older machines. So I think understanding the concept as well as the tips and how they can be advantageous, really, really important as well. I agree.
Ron, any comments with the harmonics?
Yeah, I would add, Ivo, I think both the balance tip and the harmonics are wonderful instruments that make it easy, but let's not forget the importance of endothelial protection. As you mentioned, the patient remembers you for life. So remember to top up your OVD from time to time and just take your time and be gentle.
Very good, very good. So next we have Jeff. Hard cataracts in New York.
That's right. I hope that I can prove that once in a while, we do have come across some hard cataracts. So the video that I'm going to share, I have two sequential videos, and let me just preface this again. My videos are short and are edited down. So a lot going on here. You can see that. So essentially, elderly patient, 90-year-old patient with pseudoexfoliation. So to start the case off, first of all, this was a video who was lent to me by a mentor. This is Rob Bailey from Wills Eye Hospital in Philadelphia. You can see the iris expansion device, the 6.25 Malyugin ring, as well as capsular tension hooks have already been placed in this case. Again, concern for potentially severe global zonulopathy. So this technique is, essentially the crater chop, a variation of a quick chop with a vertical chopping technique. So what I'll go through and show here is the surgeon essentially creating a very deep well or crater, essentially deep centrally. Oftentimes with these very dense nuclei, we know that they can form a leathery posterior plate with very tricky fibers to dismantle. So in forming a central well down deep, this helps us to gain access to an area of the nucleus a little bit more peripherally, where we can vertically chop and then break off and cleave these posterior leathery fibers, so to speak, in a vertical chopping manner. So you're going to see one at a time. I think the key here is an exceptional amount of patience, especially for someone who may not have as much experience with this technique. Slowly but surely, with a lot of vertical chopping, we can not only cut down on the endothelial loss, and again, a lot of dispersive viscoelastic to the endothelium as needed, but we can get this posterior plate to be slowly and gently cleaved apart, getting us to a situation where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So that's what we're looking at here. The second video that I'm going to show you is my take on the same subject with a crater chop. So, lastly, I think, understanding principles of, like you talked about, Ivo, that safety zone where we need to be emulsifying, not a lot of cortical material. So you're seeing the posterior capsule directly behind these hard fragments, installation of viscoelastic into the bag, into the endothelium, not being afraid to go through more viscoelastic than you might need to make sure that, all of your procedure proceeds as safe as possible. And so this is basically the conclusion of our first case. I'm going to go ahead and show the second as well. Case proceeded nicely. After that, I apologize to cut things off a little early. And this, as the second case, same idea. And I will preface this by saying, please don't judge me too harshly. This is a video of myself actually in training. So this is when I was very early on, starting to learn how to quick chop. This was a technique I really wanted to have under my belt to really understand how to get through, again, nuclei of different densities. I'm trying to quick chop, and so you'll see, you know, starting to get a cleavage plane to form, but not really working. I'm going to try again multiple times. You can see my wrist position and the fingers you see in the video are indicative of, you know, a novice surgeon here too. And so I'm trying again multiple times to quick chop, getting cleavage planes, but this posterior leathery plate is very apparent. So I decide midway through, you know what, I'm going to change my approach. Why don't I go for more of a crater chop technique where I'm going to sculpt down, you know, very deep, and this could be done a little bit more deeply, but that takes confidence in you know, your manipulation through the nucleus. And eventually, again, patients, slowly but surely, these cortical fibers and, excuse me, nuclear fibers toward the posterior plate are freed up. Again, safety is really important. And I find, especially in a novice and you know, junior attending faculty, these can be things that can be frustrating because sometimes we might lose our patience, we might start to fatigue a little bit. There's lots of things that can cause issues. Chopping in particular, you can see, so finally here we get these posterior fibers to cleave apart, and we're able to go through and remove this nucleus bit by bit. This nucleus not as dense certainly as the first one, but the last bit I would say about, you know, vertical chopping and chopping in general is that we have to be sure, especially in a patient with a potentially a lighter iris, that we're not losing fragments of nucleus into the angle. So by the conclusion of this case, I always make sure to sweep saline solution through the anterior chamber and make sure that nothing gets kicked up. Again, you know, bit by bit, slowly but surely, taking my time and making sure I'm putting viscoelastic on the endothelium as needed. I'm not worried about going through extra, you know, viscoelastic, and certainly keeping, you know, both posterior capsule where it should be, and then the endothelium nice and clear by the conclusion of the case. So those are my two. Again, would really appreciate any questions, comments, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Thank you, guys.
Very interesting, Jeff. Especially, I think when we talk about hard cataracts, we need to talk about that posterior plate, right? That's one of the most challenging things that any surgeon is going to face. So I think that's something very interesting to talk about. And you know, you need to be calm, you need to be relaxed, and you need to assure that nucleus is fragmented, because if not, then everything, you know, everything goes bad, because that sonula, you know, you can weaker the sonula when you're manipulating too much a hard nucleus in the back. I love it. Luz Marina, you have other amazing videos for us
okay.
Of hard cataracts.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about approaching hard cataracts. Well, in this case, I'm going to show you our approach using the ultrachopper technique. We are going to do it first. After doing the incisions, we make a capsulorhexis. Then some things you have to consider during the capsulorhexis. You need, what size do you need? If it's a big nucleus, you can use a capsulorhexis a little bit bigger if you're not going to use a multifocal lens. If you have a bigger capsulorhexis, you can divide the nucleus into 4 parts. If it's a smaller, you can use it in many parts. What are we going to do? I'm going to show you. This is an animation where you show it with the left hand as the sustainer, and with the right hand you use the ultrachopper to divide the nucleus. So what's going to happen in live surgery? Here you introduce, this is one important tip, introduce a little bit of OBD under the anterior capsule to help you introduce the sustainer. Then touching the nucleus, you go touching the nucleus in order to avoid the capsular rim. And then you lift the equator of the eye and you impale the ultrachopper. It's very important to impale it. And when you have impaled it, you put position 3 and you go ahead. The ultrachopper has 2 holes that makes aspiration. So it helps you to see what you're doing. And you can cut it into as many parts as you want. Other important thing here is that the ultrasound keeps in the interior of the nucleus. See, when I introduce here the OVD, you can see that the posterior plate is completely fractured. That will help you very much in the fragmentation and emulsification of the fragments. Here I use the torsional at 40 to 70, and I like to use a little bit of Phaco burst in order to decrease also CDE. But using the ultrachopper and this type of Phaco maneuvers, you can have one cataract like this with at least 12 or 14 CDEs. Yeah, CDE, so it has a little power into the eye, and so the endothelial cells won't suffer as well. So here I'm finishing the emulsification of the fragments very nicely, keeping the tip at the center, always at the center. And if you have a good fracture, it will allow all the fragments to go in there. Sometimes you can help with the manipulator in the left hand. Afterwards, you introduce your intraocular lens, and okay, you have it in the bag, and well, that's it. Then what happens here? Sometimes people, it's a little bit scared of the size of the ultrachopper. You can see here that the tip is of 2.5 millimeters, and the depth of the thickness of the lens is from 4.5 to 5. And in a cataract, if you have cataract, it will be even more. So, and also you can adjust the tip, the size of the length of the blade. You can adjust it to your needs. Also, you have a small pupil. And well, what happened with these cataract migrants that have low endothelial cell count, narrow chambers? We also use extracapsular surgeries in some cases. So this 30 seconds to show you an extracap surgery. After doing some capsulotomy, you lift the nucleus, and then you may hear the complete incision. You make the extraction of the nucleus, and afterwards, then you place some stitches and introduce the intraocular lens. One of the main concerns of this surgery is the astigmatism, but if you have a very good incision and if the sutures are not tight, you will not have astigmatism. And this is a case that you can see afterwards. Thank you very much for your attention.
Very nice, very interesting. And, you know, we are all, you know, the students of Dr. Scaff. So that's an amazing technique we have in Latin America. We're gonna send it to you, Jeff. We're gonna send it to you to New York, and you're gonna love this. Oh, seriously, it's a very.
We really think that even though Phaco is of course the golden standard for surgery, we think that our surgeons in Latin America, that we still have so hard cataracts, it's good for them to get trained in extracap surgery, because it gives you more training in the eye, and also to have more instruments, more tools, and also we have places we don't have Phaco machines, so it's important for them to do the cataracts, this type of technique as well. And also in some cases that you have very low endothelial cell count, very hard cataract, because the ultrachopper can split it. But then what about the cornea? You have to wash the cornea. So in some cases, so we think that using the ultrachopper and with the Prechopper and with the extracap, the first two will give us 95, 98% of our cataracts, and the extracap in a little 2% or 1% of our cataracts. Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to take 2 minutes. We're about to finish. We're amazing in timing. I wanna thank Dr. Jorge Hernandez for translating to Spanish, and Cesar Milan to translate to Portuguese. So today we're in 3 languages. This is amazing. The community is getting big, and we have people. Well, Ron is from Singapore. We have colleagues from Thailand, colleagues from Vietnam, colleagues from Myanmar. I can see colleagues from Laos, from any. So the good thing is, you know, we can pick. It's Latin America and that part of Asia, or, you know, Latin America and Europe. Today we're in your side, Ron. So there's so many people that we would love them, you know, to write in the chat, where are you from? How are you doing? You know, if you want any more tools to do Phaco. So we're gonna do the 3rd question to the audience, and we're gonna share, because this is an open community, we're gonna share the 3 videos we have from people who send it, that they have amazing things. So after you heard all this amazing panel, would you change your Phaco technique depending, for example, in the hardness of the cataract? Yes or no? Let's see if we did our job correctly, and then we can start sharing the screen, Lisandro, and we're gonna share 3 amazing videos from colleagues. In this case, there are 2 colleagues from Argentina. Okay, so the first thing is, as I said, You guys want to connect with us, take a picture to this QR, and then we're gonna try to, you know, to get in touch with you, to connect you to a mentor. You know, we can help you in any way we can. Then put the first surgery, and then let's see what, okay, let's see the video. And the video was the one we wanted to show in the beginning, that it's an horizontal chop for a soft cataract. So the thing is, so if you want to train, you know, horizontal chop, probably the best thing to go is to understand the position of the instruments and the movements, not in a very hard cataract. Also not very soft as well. You know, you need to be, it's very interesting, but what I'm trying to say is you can deconstruct the task and try to do that chopping technique in a soft cataract, and you start to get the feeling of a centered eye with, you know, with the two hands coming. There's so many different tips. For example, if you're doing a horizontal chop, you remember the paracentesis need to be closer to the principal port. There's many interesting things. Okay, so thanks to Dr. Valenzuela for that video. Let's see what people said about if they're going to change their technique depending on the cataract. 93% with a yes. So we did our jobs, right? Nice. There's still a 7% of people that will say they will not change their technique. That's interesting. We could discuss with them. So thanks and then let's go for the second video from Dr. Valenzuela. They're, again, very short videos and very interesting. And we need to talk about grooving, right? Because this is something that every surgeon, no matter if you're a Ron and you love the pre-chop of, to understand what implies to do a good groove, especially in that hard cataract, is going to be a very good tool for you for many cases. And as you can see there, he's doing a stop and chop. He did an amazing groove. You know, he took the time, and then he went to chop for the second half. So people who wants to learn chop, I think the good thing is also maybe you can begin with a half and not, you know, with the entire nucleus as well. We have the third video, and the third video is from a great friend and a great surgeon, Dr. Noel Rivero, and it's about vertical chop. And this is I think you need to be very skillful, you know, to do it. You need to start learning it step by step, but this could save a lot of ultrasound if you do it correctly. As you can see there, you know, he's in the nucleus, he extracted the epinucleus, he's completely impaled in the nucleus, he's soft. And it's very important, as well as he showed in the beginning, the second instrument. The second instrument needs to be adequate to do vertical chop. And, you know, he did precise movements, right? So this could be very, you know, dangerous for the eye if you're not well trained. But you can start, and you can start, for example, we did a couple of webinars how you can do it with a virtual simulator, or you can start step by step. And here he's doing this amazing technique with the left hand, right? So you need to be very skillful to do it with your non-dominant hand. So thank you, Dr. Noel Rivero from Argentina. I think this is another amazing technique for hard cataracts. And we are right in time. Let's stop sharing the screen. The last thing, the big community we have, it's an amazing WhatsApp group. So everybody there can enter our community. You know, that's why we're in touch with people even from Thailand, from all over the world. So take a picture there, and let's just have a quick discussion about what happened today. Okay, my humble opinion is we did a good job about saying the matching. Ron was talking about, let's match this type of eye and cataract with this technique. This could be very interesting for you guys. I think we went from soft, medium to hard cataracts. People said that medium cataracts are the most common ones, and Ron gave us 3 amazing tips about those kind of cataracts. And then in hard cataracts, you know, we have a lot of tools. So I will go with the position we are here in the screens for me. What do you think about everything that happened today, Takashi?
Well, first, I would like to, Jeff, I respect the New York hard dense cataract, okay? It's really hard, don't worry. And about the presentation of Luz Marina, well, different maneuver using ultrachopper, and un cordial saluto to Dr. Scaff, right? He's the man, right?
Yeah.
Very good. And I would say that we showed the balance of some main factors, right? Depending on the density of the nucleus, you have to have an excellent fallibility, extremely stable chamber. Well, everybody showed, despite there's a very different options of settings, high, low settings, and application of energy. I think the most important is to minimize endothelial stress and protect the posterior capsule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Takashi, for always being here with us. It's such an honor to have you, such a great surgeon. Luz Marina.
Well, I've noticed that, well, I've been following Oftalmo University, and I think that's something very good of you guys is that it's very practical. You take concepts, clear concepts, and things that are not written in the books, but things practical of the daily life that you can use it. And so it's important that, and you also show all the participants very, very different aspects and a whole fan of things they can use. So it's very important. And one of the things that I think it's very, very important is that everybody is different and you should not be comparing one to another. So you should see in your training, in your abilities, what you can do and what's best for you. Maybe what's best for one is not the best for the other one. So the technique that you manage and that you do well, it's important you use it. We have an experience because, well, I've been the chief of the fellowship in anterior segment at the clinic for more than 10 years. We've trained more than 70 ophthalmologists nowadays. And we've seen them, how the learning curve using the ultrachopper, it's very good. And if you have now also the eye simulator, the IC, it's been also very, very good to incorporate. So everything you can add, it's a gain. You gain, you win, it's a win-win. If you add more things, more expertise, more comments from everybody to see more videos, it's very amazing. And I think that all ophthalmologists should thank Oftalmo University for being one of our sponsors, of one of our people that are potentially making this very potentializing everything.
Thank you so much, Luz Marina. Actually, we have a question from the public. Dr. Vladimir Villarreal asked, which was the second instrument you were using in your surgery, in the last surgery?
The sustainer. The sustainer in the left hand. When I did the ultrachopper, you impale the ultrachopper in the nucleus a little bit downwards of the center. You impale it. When you're impaled, position 3, and with the left hand, the sustainer. It's very important that the sustainer pets the lens, touch the lens very softly, and then goes under the lens, lift it a little bit, and meanwhile, you have impaled the ultrachopper, and in position 3, you're going, and then you can break it up. And it's a very easy way, and you can break it up into as many pieces as you want.
Thank you very much. Ron, some few words?
Yeah, first of all, a great concept for this session, Ivo, from soft to hard. I think it's a concept that we don't address often enough. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Jeff. I loved your presentation on the hard cataracts because let's face it, not all of us have an ultrachopper, just as not all of us have a femtosecond laser, which is a technique we didn't talk about for addressing these very hard nuclei. So for the average guy out there in Southeast Asia, at least, you need to have a good standard phaco technique, which the crater technique, I think you mentioned, is very good. I think I would only do it slightly differently in that I don't think you need to have a very deep crater. I would do maybe a half depth crater because all you need is a vertical wall to impale your phaco tip into the nucleus. Because for these dense cataracts, grip is everything. If you don't have grip, you have no chop. And especially if it's a leathery one, you really need that. So that's point number one. Number two is, the other technique I would use is really, as I've said, the femtosecond laser. I would do a grid, and that really converts it to a medium nucleus. Once you've done a grid pattern on a dense nucleus, then you do the pre-chopping, it completes it. And the third technique I think we need to have up our sleeve is the MSICS, minimally invasive small incision, just to express that nucleus through a 6mm tunnel. And I think that would do very well. But I've enjoyed this session very much, Ivo. Thank you so much for having me. I have to get to work now to pay the bills, and I'll see you guys around.
Start the day.
Hey, Ron, you're the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very good, Ron. Very good, Ron.
Very good.
Bye, Takashino.
Okay,
Master
Jeff.
Ron.
So very happy to have you. Thank you for being with us. Amazing cases, amazing concepts. We would love to have you in the future soon.
Happy to join you again.
What did you think about the entire talk, and what are the concepts that people hearing us, can take back home?
Fantastic. Thank you. Sorry, Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Ron.
I first of all, I want to say thanks, Ivo. This was fantastic. Thank you to everyone. I learned a tremendous amount. I think that, it's very practical. That's what I take away from this. This is kind of telling it like it is. Some of the things that I think I wish I had heard in training, and so one of the things that I take away from that is, again, there's not one correct way necessarily to approach a cataract. Having a tool belt is great. And I myself actually do M6 depending on the lens. I've done it, believe it or not, a handful of times here, just based on what comes in the door. So I think, keeping the patient's best interest in mind, using all of these techniques, I think it's fantastic. I don't think we necessarily in the US use the pre-chopper enough. I also don't think we receive in the US enough M6 training. Phaco is the vast majority of our training here. And so I think there's plenty of room for improvement in that regard. But from top to bottom, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. This was wonderful.
No, thank you. And then we go back to, to the audience. We are starting to build a community between Phaco surgeons around the world. We believe that right now with technology, everybody can become a Phaco surgeon, and it's our mission, to give everybody, a way to do it. So thank you guys again. Right now, just to say goodbye, but let's go back to the panel. We did an amazing timing today, 1 hour and 10 minutes. Thank again, Jorge. Thank you so much, Jorge, an amazing surgeon, giving us his time to translate to Spanish. Cesar also, thank you so much for giving us your time and translating to Portuguese. Okay, and Takashi, with Takashi, we have amazing plans for next week and the week after that. So we're gonna keep working. Thank you, Takashi. Just a few words to say goodbye to the audience. You're mute.
No, you're mute.
I recommend everybody to follow the channel of Oftalmo University and Phaco Mentors. I think there is a big opportunity to learn more. And I always talk to the residents, everybody here in Brazil, and everybody in the world. I really recommend people to see all over again and learn and learn and learn. And I think Oftalmo University is a platform where they think how to learn and learn and learn. Very good, Ivo.
Thank you, Takashi. Luz Marina?
Yeah, thank you very much for your invitation. This was an amazing session. And well, looking forward to see you as soon as possible and maybe get together sometime in the near future. And yes, to keep on, to all the people, to keep on doing surgery, watching videos, persevering, and doing things with safety and with your heart.
Thank you. Oh, amazing, amazing words. So Jeff, we're inviting you again live, so you can't say no for the future. A couple of weeks, we're gonna have you back, okay?
Wonderful, happy to help. And I'm a fan. I'm gonna be watching all the episodes now. I have to go back and see them all.
Okay, guys, so have a great night.
Have a great night.
Gracias, Jorge. Gracias, César.
Okay.
Obrigado, César. Obrigado.
Okay. Obrigado.